Hey ladies and gentlemen, Derek here with a bit of an update. As you can end up seeing, today I managed to end up finishing off both the 4-pack of Warriors and 10-man Gaunt squad. Been doing a lot of thinking about this army, actually. One thing you're going to end up finding, and if any of you guys have probably caught it, you probably saw it fairly early, is that my army is very much an older army. And when I say that, its design was very much built around the meta at around, I think it was 3rd going into 4th. It was the first Tyranid codex, as I understood it, like an actual codex, as opposed to, finding stuff in the White Dwarf, and here's a few models, etc., etc. That's when I started. So, a lot of my model collection, a lot of the ways they were made, very much reflects this kind of design. It reflects on how that army was played. This led to a lot of frustrations with me and this army. Me and this army have a very, very rugged history. I ended up making mention of that before, and it's very much a love-hate relationship. I love Tyranids, but I could never play them competitively. This is a combination of the meta shifting so drastically and my own command of the battlefield, quite frankly. I understand some of the core concepts, but trying to get them to work when on the table is almost impossible for me. I'll give you an example of what I mean. The last fun game I ever ended up having with these guys, I ended up playing against one of the better club goers that I had the privilege of playing against. Went by the name Dave, and he was playing Eldar. And he was playing Wave Serpent Eldar. He had just a great command of the battlefield. He is a tournament player, really great painter. I wish I could have been at his level at any given time in my life. Not going to happen, but that doesn't stop us from trying. Still, I remember that it was just him picking me apart left, right, and center, and the thing that I most remember from that fight was that we were both kind of getting up in arms, because it really came down to my lack of understanding of the rules, primarily upon the charge. I declared a charge with my Hormagaunts and my Carnifex, but the way it ended up working out, my own Hormagaunts ended up blocking off the charge with my Carnifex, and my Carnifex just stopped dead short, and it was the last heavy hitter I had. He shredded it, and then just proceeded to pick apart my smaller units piece after piece. And I'm thinking about the list I'm working on right now. And it's kind of similar to what I played against him. In the end, I'm looking to get 1250 points done, specifically to play against another opponent. But the reason I was thinking about this was because oftentimes I feel like I'm really far behind in the meta and I just can't keep up. Try and understand, these little vlogs are a little bit of therapy and me working things out, but I kind of came to a conclusion when listening to one of Fritz's videos while painting, and I came to the realization that he's been playing his Samhan Warhost Eldar for years. It's changed from edition to edition to edition. There's probably been slight tweaks, but on the whole, it's the same goddamn army. And I don't know how he's managed to pull that off, really. I mean, when I think about it, what I'm hearing is that he has a really ingrained understanding of what his army can and can't do. He also has personal restrictions he puts on himself. And I can understand that. I have a few of my own. but the few of my own are more of a practical purpose. My own is I try not to end up buying too many more kits for an army I don't use all that frequently. My way of thinking is until you get it all painted and until you at least have a competent level of play with what you have, why are you buying more stuff? I fell heavily into that trap when I first started playing these guys because I had them all, I had them primed. I think that at one point that was as far as it went. And I just found that, oh, I was getting beaten by this, so let's pick this up. I was getting beaten by this, so let's pick this up. I was getting beaten by this, so let's pick this up. And that kind of led to my out of control over 2,000 point collection, which at this point, due to Warriors now shifting from an elite to a core choice, I was left with a collection where if I were to try and end up filling the traditional Force Org chart, means that I can only use maybe 3/4 of it if I really wanted to push it. Man, that kind of stung. That was another one of those little things that ended up putting a few issues between me and Tyranids. So I hear you saying, like, Derek, if this has been this much of a headache, why are you going back to these guys? And I have to admit, I mean, this was my first love when it came down to 40k. When I ended up first picking up my few boxes of gaunts. Well, it started off mostly on the fact that I ended up playing Zerg in StarCraft. And when I first heard of 40k, I ended up saying, well, I usually play Zergus or anything like that. Oh yeah, we got Tyranids. Suffice it to say, I didn't understand Blizzard and Game Workshop relations at the time, so, yeah. For those of you who don't know Gabe and Tycho's response to that, all I have to say is, I hope you enjoy text. Give a thumbs up if any of you actually caught that reference. But, anyway, to wrap up the rambling, the army itself was just the idea I wanted to do was just flood the board. I wanted to have more gaunts on the field than practically possible. I wanted to end up loving the idea of, you ended up bringing an army of about 30, 40 guys. So in response, I'm bringing 200. I still get giddy just thinking of that on just Hormagaunts and Termagaunts backed up by Warriors and a Hive Tyrant and just charging the board and saying, best of luck. But I didn't understand some of the strategy that could be applied to that. I still don't, to a certain degree. I understand you can tie up a lot of things. I understand you can use it to control the board and use your heavy hitters to focus down one thing while you drown everything else in gaunts and just go from one squad to the other and pick it apart. And right here is the core of that. It's the core of that mentality of controlling the board through sheer weight of numbers. Now, be thankful to any of you who didn't have to end up going through, I believe it was third, where you bought a basic gaunt, but then you chose what the hell went on it. So you had to customize everything. Because back then, spine gaunts were the best. Not in performance, but on the fact that they were dirt cheap. I think it was like half a point for a spine fist. So you'd be running around with these huge hordes of spine fist gaunts that were utterly useless outside of choking up lanes of fire and just overall being a large target. But now, need to end up finding some use for spine gaunts. And the fact that I still refer to them as that rather than Termagaunts with spine fists should end up telling you something. Anyway, maybe you guys have some thoughts on this approach and how you guys made it work out. Maybe ways to end up updating it, or maybe just how to use what you got. Personally, my belief is you use what you have. You know, you can't have a perfect list every single time. Still, that's me rambling. And you're probably going to get a lot more of it throughout the day. Still, maybe you've picked up something, maybe you had some thoughts, send some feedback, you know. Don't be afraid to end up sending something in the chat. After all, it's just another noob trying to chisel his way back onto the battlefield in some way, shape, or form. Until next time.